All right, welcome everybody. Let's do this. Welcome to solving radical equations. This will be the new topic for today. And this is the first video I've made in almost 6 months. So I'm super excited to give you a brand new, fresh set of videos. Okay, so game plan for today is how do we solve these radical equations, right? So here, the first idea will be a strategy, right? So here I have the equation over here, and we have the steps over here, and let's write the strategy for this type of problem. So strategy, we want to get the radical by itself. Okay, that will be the general strategy here. And the way we read this symbol over here, we could read it as the square root of, or we can say radical, right? So you could say the square root of 6x plus 1 minus 3 equals 2, or you can say radical 6x plus 1 minus 3 equals 2. So let's try and do this strategy right now. Here, what I want you to do is pause the video and think, what would be the move that gets this radical by itself? What do you think you would have to do, right? Here, notice that this minus 3 is over here, and this minus 3 is not part or inside over here. So what you're allowed to do is we're just simply going to add 3 on both sides, right? So here, let me lower the music a little bit. Okay, that looks good. Now here, this would be square root 6x plus 1. And notice that this minus 3 plus 3, this becomes 0, so we just cancel it out, equals 5. Okay. So did we accomplish this strategy of getting the radical by itself? We did. It is by itself. Now here, the idea is once the radical is by itself, we want to square both sides of the equation or raise it to the power of 2. Okay? So here, the idea is what you're allowed to do is, let me rewrite this over here. This is the 6x, square root of 6x. Oh, no, my bad, let me write that again. Square root of 6x plus 1 equals 5, right? Here, what you could do is, you can just simply do this. You're gonna raise both sides to the power of 2, okay? Now what happens is, when you square the square root, this will cancel. Why it cancels, I will show in the next video or tomorrow. But for now, we just take it for what it is. And then what are you left with? You're simply left with 6x plus 1 is equal to, now we need to do 5 squared, right? So here, let me just be a little bit specific on our strategy. So first we said we wanted to get the radical by itself. Now we want to square both sides when the radical is by itself. This will eliminate the radical. Okay? Right? That's what we did here. We squared both sides and now the radical is gone, right? And make sure that you have this in your notes, okay? Now here, how do you interpret this? If we see 5 squared, please do not think this is 5 times 2, right? This will just be 5 times 5, which is 25, right? So now we have 6x plus 1 is equal to 25. Now here, what I want you to do is pause the video. We should all be able to solve this type of linear equation, right? What would you do to solve this equation? Take your time. Pause the video and try it on your own, right? Here, if you want to see how it's done, what would be the first move? We do minus 1, minus 1. So now notice we have 6x plus 1 minus 1. This is 0 equals 24. Then what is the next move we have over here? Notice this is 6 times x. So all we're doing is dividing both sides by 6. Now here, x is equal to, what is 24 divided by 6? Take your time. This is x equals 4. Fantastic. Okay, and this is it. Here, what you can do is, I didn't get a chance to write it down, but show these steps step by step. Like, take your time. First we subtracted 1, then we divided 6 on both sides. Now we have x equals 4. And that's it. We're done. What I'd like you to do is take a second to review what was the strategy, right? Let's start from the beginning. The strategy is we want to get this radical by itself. So what did we do? We added 3 on both sides. And why do you want to get this radical by itself? So we can square both sides or raise it to the power of 2. And then once we raise it to the power of 2, this cancels. And now we just have a linear equation and we solve. Okay? What I'd like you to do is take a second. How would you check this? Right? If the original equation is, if we're going to check for x equals 4, if the original equation is square root of 6x plus 1 minus 3 equals 2, right? Let's zoom in over here. How would you plug in 4 into this radical equation, right? Take your time and try and do it. Here, how do we plug in 4 into here? Well, this is square root 6. Anywhere I see x, I'm going to substitute the 4, right? So I can do parentheses, the 4 plus 1 minus 3 equals 2. And please use colors, right? That will always help. Square root. Okay, now we could do this. 6 times 4 is 24. Plus 1 minus 3 equals 2. And notice that this negative 3 is on the outside of the radical, right? So now that I have square root of 25 minus 3 equals 2, you cannot subtract this. You can't say that this is the square root of 22 or something. That's no bueno. How do you take the square root of 25, right? Let's just pause the video real quick and just look at this idea. Like, how do you interpret what this is saying? This is saying what number times itself is 4? What number times itself is 4? This is 2, because 2 times 2 is 4. What number times itself is 9? It's 3, because 3 times 3 is 9. Pause the video and try and figure out these two. Right? Pause the video. Let's say you unpaused. This should be 6. This should be 9. What should this one be? 2. Thus, we can say 2 equals 2, check. Now, x equals 4 is a solution. Happy face. Great. What I'd like you to do is try and do this next question on your own. Oh, I see that. Let me get a new piece of paper because this will be no good for us. Okay. What I'd like you to do is try this question on your own and please write the steps and strategy, right? Okay. If you want, while you're doing it on your own, I'm going to write out the steps and strategy, okay? Right? So we should have this so far. Now that the radical is by itself, what are we going to do? We're just going to simply square both sides. Right? And let's just take a second. Like if I have this, right? If I square both sides, this cancels, right? Equals -3 squared. So then notice I have x plus 5 is here, and now I have -3 squared. what is negative 3 squared? Take your time, but this is negative 3 times negative 3. Negative times negative is positive. 3 times 3 is 9. So now I have x plus 5 is equal to 9. And then what is the finishing move over here? Minus 5 minus 5. X equals 4. So notice that we got x equals 4 again for another problem. But what do we need to do? Right? What should we do? Let's check x equals 4 for square root of x plus 5 minus 9 is equal to negative 12. Right? Let's plug in 4 in here. So notice that this is square root of 4 plus 5 minus 9 equals negative 12. 4 plus 5 is square root 9 minus 9 equals negative 12. Take your time. What is the square root of 9? That should be 3 minus 9 equals negative 12. What is 3 minus 9? Negative 6 equals negative 12. Huh? Okay. Oh no. What happened here? Notice that when we plugged in 4 into the original equation, one side does not equal another side. So then what was that fancy word we learned in the previous lesson with rational equations? We're going to say x equals 4 is an extraneous solution. Notice that plugging in 4 or plugging in what we got over here did not match once we put it into the original equation. All right. What I'd like you to do is take your time and go to the Delta Math homework. Okay? The Delta Math homework will review these types of questions and you get more practice before I show in the next video how to do something like this. All right. I'll see you in class.